April 1st, 2026, 6:35 p.m. Florida's Launchpad 39B. After 54 years of absolute silence, Artemis 2 finally takes flight.
Good afternoon from the space coast of Florida, where 4 astronauts are about to suit up for NASA's boldest test flight in a generation.
The 4 humans inside this capsule aren't just traveling, they are openly defying death. 1,126,000 kilometers. To some, it might just sound like a random number, but to understand its true, terrifying scale, let's bring it down to earth. Imagine you take off from Florida, and after hours of exhausting travel, you first arrive in Dubai, and from there, you take another exhausting long-haul flight landing straight in Sydney, Australia. That is a massive journey of roughly 24,000 kilometers. You would have to complete this exact trip not just once, but 47 times over. Yes, a staggering distance of 1,126,992 kilometers. This distance is completely mind-numbing. And Artemis 2 is taking us where no human eyes have ever peered before. But why did it take us so long to get back here? The turbulent era of the 1960s. The world was violently split into 2 powerful factions. This wasn't just a simple race for science. It was a brutal clash of 2 conflicting ideologies, 2 opposing superpowers, and 2 massive egos. On one side stood the sheer dominance of the Soviet Union, and on the other, the fierce pride of the United States. This was an all-out war to prove one single thing. Who is the true king of the space? The Soviet Union shocked the world, first by launching Sputnik and then by sending Yuri Gagarin into the unknown. America was lagging behind, and their pride was turning to ash. Total defeat was staring them right in the face. But then, one single man made a promise that openly challenged the very laws of physics.
Before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
But this journey to reach the moon was no easy task. This path was not a bed of roses. It was written with fire and blood. January 27th, 1967 proved to be a black day for NASA. During a routine ground test, a fire suddenly broke out inside the Apollo 1 capsule. In just 17 seconds, 3 brave astronauts lost their lives. The whole of America was in total shock. People began to say that maybe we have set our hopes too high. Maybe the moon is completely out of our reach. But NASA did not give up. For the next 20 months, every single screw, every single wire, and the entire design was checked all over again. Thousands of engineers worked day and night because they knew that the world was watching them. Then came the time for Apollo 8. In December 1968, for the very first time, human beings left Earth's gravity and circled around the moon. On that day, when the astronauts saw the Earth rising from the surface of the moon, that Earthrise brought all of humanity together. Now, the world was convinced that the finish line was not far away. And then, that historic night of July 20th, 1969 arrived. The eyes of the entire world were glued to their TV screens. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were moving toward the moon's surface. Fuel was running out. Alarms were ringing. But then, complete silence took over. The Eagle has landed. When Neil Armstrong took his very first step on the silent and dusty surface of the moon, he said the words that will be remembered for centuries.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. The moon was no longer just a dream. It had become a symbol of human success. But the journey to the moon wasn't always this easy. In 1970, during the Apollo 13 mission, the world watched a terrifying disaster. Halfway to the moon, an oxygen tank inside the capsule exploded. Then came that famous, scary radio call.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This mission was no longer about landing on the moon. It became a desperate fight to come back alive. Facing freezing space temperatures and a terrifying lack of oxygen, NASA engineers back on Earth had to invent quick, creative fixes to save the astronauts from dying. To this day, it is remembered as NASA's greatest successful failure. Over the next few missions, we drove cars across the moon and even played golf. Then came December 1972, Apollo 17. This was the very last time a human being stepped foot on the moon. Before leaving moon, Commander Gene Cernan wrote his daughter's name, Tracy, on moon dust. And because there is absolutely no wind or weather on the moon, her name is still sitting there today, exactly how he left it. Did you know the moon actually has a specific smell? According to the astronauts, when they brought moon dust back inside the ship on their spacesuits, the room filled with a smell exactly like burnt gunpowder. And here is another shocking fact. Our trash is still sitting up there. 96 bags of human waste, old space cars, and even a camera was simply left behind. But after 1972, everything suddenly stopped. Why didn't we ever go back? Some say the money ran out. Others say people simply lost interest. But scary conspiracy theories even suggest we were warned to stay away. Whatever the truth is, that long silence is finally about to break. Artemis 2 isn't just another space mission. It is the ultimate announcement of our return. In the history of space exploration, the Saturn V was considered royalty. This was the rocket that took humanity to the moon for the very first time. Standing 110 meters tall, meaning higher than a 36-story building. But in 2026, we saw a new beast, the Space Launch System. What is the difference between the two? Saturn V was definitely taller, but the SLS is far more powerful. The thrust of the SLS is 8.8 million pounds, which is about 15% more than the Saturn V. The simple truth is, if the Saturn V was an old heavyweight wrestler, then the SLS is today's high-tech bodybuilder. Let's look closely at this machine. Launching a rocket of this scale is no ordinary thing. It is a massive, controlled explosion. And what do you need to control this powerful explosion? Water. This is Mobile Launcher 1. But what is this huge tank doing next to it? Many people think it is there to cool down the rocket, but the reality is completely different. At the exact moment of launch, this system releases 1.1 million gallons of water in just 60 seconds. This water is there so that the sound waves from the rocket's engines do not destroy the rocket itself. Yes, you heard that right. The speed and power of the sound bouncing back from the ground is so intense that it could rip the rocket completely apart. These 4 engines you see at the bottom of the rocket are the RS-25 engines. Interestingly, these are the exact same engines used in the old space shuttles. But for Artemis 2, they have been upgraded to become even more dangerous. When all 4 of these engines start together, they generate so much power that the ground of Florida literally shakes. But the real speed of the SLS comes from the 2 white solid rocket boosters attached to its sides. In the first 2 minutes of the launch, these 2 boosters provide 75% of the total power. They burn 6 tons of fuel every single second. Without them, the Orion capsule could never break Earth's gravity to reach the moon. This massive orange part is called the core stage. Why is it orange? Actually, it's not paint at all. It is a highly specialized insulation foam sprayed directly onto the metal to keep the fuel freezing cold. Inside this tank, there are over 2 million liters of liquid hydrogen and around 742,000 liters of liquid oxygen. This fuel is so unimaginably cold that if you went near it, you would turn into a solid block of ice in a split second. But when it burns, it creates such a terrifying heat that a human would turn into ash in the blink of an eye. At the very top sits the Orion capsule, the home of our 4 heroes. Reed and Victor take the top seats, and right beneath them are Christina and Jeremy. They are laid down on their backs in this specific way so that the extreme crushing pressure of the launch doesn't damage their bodies. In reality, as this rocket rapidly picks up speed, the G-force suddenly increases the astronauts' weight by 4 times, meaning it feels as if a massive weight has been placed on their chests. This intense, crushing pressure lasts only as long as these engines are spewing fire at full power. But the moment the engines shut down, these astronauts, who were just feeling 4 times their own weight, are now completely free from weight. But now begins the most difficult and terrifying part of this mission. Do you know how big the Orion capsule is on the inside? It is only about the size of a small SUV. All 4 astronauts have to spend 10 days inside this tiny space. There is no separate room and there is no bed. On top of that, these astronauts sleep zipped inside sleeping bags attached to the walls, just so they don't accidentally bump into a button while they are asleep. Now, let's talk about the question everyone is thinking about. How do they go to the bathroom? There is no gravity in space, so a normal toilet cannot work there. Orion uses a special vacuum system that sucks away the waste. But here is an interesting and slightly weird fact. The astronauts' urine is not wasted. Instead, it is recycled and converted into clean water to drink again. When it comes to food, there is no kitchen here. The food is pre-packaged and kept completely dry. To eat it, they have to inject hot water into the packets. But there is a huge danger here. If even a tiny crumb of food starts floating in the air, it could go into an astronaut's eye or ruin the capsule's sensitive computers, causing a deadly disaster. That is exactly why astronauts eat sticky food, ensuring it stays glued to the spoon. And the most shocking part? After spending a few days in space, the skin on the astronauts' feet becomes so soft that they actually start shedding dead skin, exactly like a snake sheds its skin. Because there is absolutely no need to walk up there, the human body begins to adapt. As beautiful as this journey to the moon looks from the outside, the reality inside is just as difficult, and it is a true test of human endurance. But who exactly were these 4 heroes? Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialists Jeremy Hansen and Christina Cook. An amazing fact here is that Christina Cook became the very first woman to reach the moon. Did you know that these astronauts went to the far side of the moon? At that moment, they were nearly 400,000 kilometers away from Earth. In human history, no one had ever gone this far out before. In that moment, they were completely cut off from the entire world. No signal, no communication, only deep darkness and the absolute silence of the moon. When this 10-day mission finally ended, the most terrifying phase began, the return. When the Orion capsule re-entered Earth's atmosphere, its speed was a mind-blowing 40,000 kilometers per hour. This speed was so incredibly fast that the air outside the capsule literally turned into fire, and the temperature of the heat shield reached 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is as hot as the surface of the sun. But here, NASA used a special technique that 99% of people do not know about. It is called skip re-entry. The capsule hit the Earth's atmosphere and bounced slightly upwards first, exactly like how we skip a stone across the water to make it jump. This was done to slow down the capsule's extreme speed so that the crushing pressure wouldn't kill the astronauts. Finally, when this capsule neared the Pacific Ocean, 3 massive parachutes opened up. But the danger still wasn't over, because while hitting the water, if the capsule's angle was even slightly wrong, the water would feel as hard as a solid cement wall, and the capsule would be blown to pieces. And when this capsule finally splashed down into the Pacific Ocean, the journey still didn't end there. An amazing fact is that even after landing in the water, the door of the capsule wasn't opened for about half an hour. Because due to the re-entry, the outer shell of the capsule was so incredibly hot that it had become a glowing ball of fire. If anyone from the outside touched it, their hand would burn to a crisp in a split second. Those 4 astronauts waited patiently inside that tiny space during the final part of their mission, until the cold ocean water finally cooled the capsule down. And when the door finally opened, it wasn't just the return of 4 humans. It was the ultimate proof that humanity is ready to go back once again. The success of Artemis 2 has proven, after 50 years, that humanity has finally left low Earth orbit and returned to deep space. But this was just the beginning. The real story is still ahead. The next massive and history-making step is Artemis 4. This will be the moment when humans won't just orbit the moon, but will actually set foot on the lunar surface after so many years. And this time, the landing won't be in an ordinary place. It will be on the moon's south pole, where there has been nothing but darkness and absolute silence for billions of years. And the journey won't stop there. The target after that is Artemis 5, where humanity will start building its first space station near the moon, the Lunar Gateway, a home hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from Earth that will open the doors to the new secrets of space. The moon is just an excuse. All of this preparation, all of this hard work is for that ultimate journey humanity has been dreaming of forever. Mars, the red planet.